water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Greetings, warriors. This is Kazu of the Wormforge here. As requested, here is my Immortal Fist build. The most overpowered Cestus build that'll make you laugh in the face of death itself. This build features a non-stop lifesteal to face tank enemy attacks, incredible key sustain via our armor, skills, and buffs, as well as martial arts combos that are going to deliver a metric ton of damage that'll utterly melt the bosses you're fighting. I've been playing Nioh 3 for well over 50 hours, unlocked all of the Cestus weapon skills, and gotten quite deep into the late game using nothing but the Cestus weapon. The Immortal Fist build I've created is pure addiction. Aggressive, quite forgiving to play, and stupidly strong. So stick around, smash that like button, sub for more Nioh 3 content, and let's forge your Fist of Fury. Alright, so now we're in game. I do want to just preface the video by saying I use a PlayStation DualSense controller. My control scheme, which I didn't talk about in the previous video, but my control scheme is going to be the custom, but it is based off of the Type B. So this is more of like the classic Nioh 2 control scheme, but here's all my inputs on screen so that you guys know what the heck I'm talking about when I talk about stuff. First thing we're going to cover is going to be the skills for the fist weapon. So if you guys haven't already seen my beginner's guide on how to use the fist, please check that out. I cover a lot of the beginner skills for the fist that are unlocked before you unlock the Way of the Warrior Adept. So we cover the priority on what types of skills that you should take in the early game, as well as a breakdown of what the skills are and how to use them. The main thing from that video that I want you to take away is that the fists are a combo focused weapon. So we have this passive called Unbroken. We get stacking damage based upon how many comboed attacks we can chain on an enemy. Different martial arts are strong attacks. So you really want to be able to have good flow with this weapon, and the movesets and the skills really support that. So for the early game, get Rising Gale. This is our weaponized key pulse attack. Really good so that you can keep your stamina up, but also be keeping the pressure on your enemy. Reckless Charge, also pretty goated ability. This one is going to be a martial art. For me, it's going to be the guard and the light attack button, or the quick attack button. And it is going to allow you to charge forward and then do a quick little kick, like so. And what they don't say is that you actually have hyper armor during the Reckless Charge. So you can fully tank enemy attacks without getting staggered back unless your key bar has been broken. This makes it so that you can charge into enemy attacks and start staggering them with your own string before they can do anything else to follow up on you. It's a really good opener. It's also a really good follow-up once you have closed the distance. And then other skills that I do recommend getting on early is Battering Ram, Fracture Foe. Those are your quick attack and heavy attack combo extenders. And then of course Beyond Infinity, which is going to need a section in this video for itself in its entirety because it's such a goddamn amazing and also very difficult to use skill. So that'll be later on in the video. But at this point, I really want to talk about what skills to take, and also how to get some of the later game skills. Archer's Impact is one that you can acquire basically in the second world zone of Nioh 3. So that's not too bad, but a lot of the other ones you don't get until like very late game in the fourth world zone. I'm not really sure why they decided to lock these so late in the game. But that's okay, because there's New Game Plus, so you can always go to New Game Plus to have more fun with them and obliterate opponents with these elemental variants of your skills. So now we're actually going to get into the skills that we have selected for the Fist that I highly recommend you guys use for the Immortal Fist build. We're going to start out with the Grapple and Assassinate, and guess what? There's no variants for them. Unfortunately, you're just stuck with the default. If you have seen me do the Azuna drop, where basically you fucking pick the dude up and you launch him into the ground like that, it's actually from the Talons. So you're gonna have to unlock that skill on the Talons, and then when an enemy runs out of ki, you swap to your ninja style and you give him that good old Azuna drop, and then you swap back. But yeah, that's how you're able to do that attack, so you don't get it from the Fist, just FYI. We do unlock a Mystic Art. Once you get to the fourth world zone, once you do Way of the Warrior Veteran, you're going to have access to some unique passives that are going to further upgrade the Fist style. We have Gong and we have Unbowed. Gong is going to make it so that we extend the duration of the Unbroken skill when we ki pull successfully. Unbowed is going to make it so that we reduce ki consumption on connecting skills or comboing to an enemy. So basically Unbowed is just going to make it so that our abilities cost less ki, which is really good because it means we can keep up the pressure and not have to worry about our ki management as much. So recommend you guys go for Unbowed. If you guys do find some uses for Gong, do let me know. But yeah, I think Unbowed is just easier to use and just always useful. Now, for our high stance abilities, I'm only going to be covering the ones that I think I actually have to talk about. Things like Battering Ram, Rising Gale, I've already discussed in my beginner videos, so you're not going to hear me talk much about those. But let's get into the unique skills that you can get in the later game. Kick Cycle Water is one of those skills. I'm going to show you how you guys can get it. It's from the fourth world zone. You get it from a Chijiko. Incredibly useful combo extender. You do a ton of cool kicks and you end with a double kick slam to the ground. If you get Kick Cycle Water, that double kick slam is going to cause a burst of water to explode upon the ground. It's going to do a decent bit of damage. It's also very flashy. I love it a lot. Water debuff is super good. If you guys don't know, if enemies are debuffed by the water status effect, they take additional damage or their defense is lowered. So really good to have. Next up is going to be Fist of Reckoning, which is a Crucible Art skill. So that means you're going to have to get a weapon that has the Crucible Art by default. Let's see if I have any on hand. Yep, so you're going to need a weapon that has in the Crucible Art section Fist of Reckoning. To actually unlock this skill, you have to maximize the familiarity on that weapon as you've seen here, and then you permanently unlock the Crucible Art skill for you to use on any other weapon, and you can swap it in and out of your characters. By default, if you have a Crucible weapon and you haven't maxed out familiarity on it, then you're kind of forced to use that Crucible Art skill and it overrides the selection of other skills. So it's really important you just get those Crucible weapons, you max out familiarity on them so that you can unlock the skill, and then you can use any other weapon that you'd like. Fist of Reckoning is a really, really awesome ability. Basically, this is a follow-up to the quick attack, and it's going to be a chain of punches. If you hold down the strong attack button, you go for this ridiculously long chain of punches that then gets finished by an uppercut. And you'll actually notice it covers a lot of ground, this ability. So it's really good if enemies are backing up to catch them up off guard. It's just a really good follow-up in general. These can easily punch through guard, or if you have your martial arts proficiency, they can do a ton of damage, obliterating an opponent. And all you got to do is hold down the Y button, so they're really easy to use. You can even just tap the Y button after a quick attack, and you'll just be able to cover a lot of ground. So great follow-up attack. highly recommend you guys unlock this as soon as you get a Crucible weapon with Fist of Reckoning, which I got very early on in the game, so should be pretty accessible. We've already covered these abilities. Beyond Infinity. Oh man, oh man. All right, so let's talk about Beyond Infinity, because this is a move that in and of itself is going to require, it could be a full video. In fact, there are full videos that you can find online. I'll leave a link in the description below, or maybe I'll put it in the comments, of a video guide on how to do Beyond Infinity, because it's the exact same timing as it is in Nioh 2. Maybe it's a little bit faster if you have your martial arts proficiency. I can't quite tell, but it feels the same. But yeah, basically when you do this attack, you are going to be able to chain 5 different attack animations together, and you're going to be pressing the light attack button a total of 4 times. Now the timing for each input of when you're going to press the quick attack button is near frame perfect. It is 2 frames that you have to press it at the right time, otherwise it's going to be the slow attack animation that you see here. So it's very strict on the timing, and if you don't execute it, it's going to be a very, very long attack combo. If you do execute the timing properly here, then it's going to be pretty fast. Fast enough that you're outputting so much damage, it's not going to even matter if you get hit or if the enemy does their yokai realm and breaks out of this, because they're going to be hurting bad after you execute this combo, especially if you have the confused debuff on the enemy and they're taking additional damage, and especially if their key bar is broken and that they're getting staggered lock, and even more especially if you have the martial arts proficiency gauge filled up. Now, something that I want to note before I talk more about the timing for the Beyond Infinity skill, you're going to notice that the key consumption for this ability is very, very high. I have a bunch of abilities that are reducing key consumption, so it's only taking up about half my bar, but when you first get this ability, it's going to take your entire bar to do the Beyond Infinity combo. That's without martial arts proficiency though. As I'm going to show you guys, when you have martial arts proficiency filled up, which is your arts gauge on the side of the samurai style screen, when that is fully filled up, the first attack you do with your martial arts proficiency costs nothing. That and all of its subsequent attacks that are part of that martial art cost 0. The follow-up martial arts that you do is, like, say for example, if I start with Reckless Charge, and then I do Archer's Impact, and then I do my Spinning Kick, those have reduced key costs. But the first one that I did, the Reckless Charge, it is free of cost in terms of stamina. So that's what makes the Beyond Infinity so much stronger in this game than it was in Nioh 2. The fact that you can cast this basically for free, or you can do this attack without costing any key, makes it very, very lucrative in terms of your damage output, and so much less punishing to use. Even if you don't get the timing down, it's still worth it if you can do it for pretty much no key costs to obliterate your opponent with a ton of attacks while they're stagger locked. So keep that in mind. Martial arts proficiency makes Beyond Infinity absolutely bonkers insane in this game. So for the timing, it's going to be a 1.3 millisecond delay for the first attack, then it's going to be a 1 second delay for the second attack, then it's going to be a 0.9 second delay for the third attack, and then lastly it's going to be a 1 second delay for the final input. Alright, so let's talk about the timings for Beyond Infinity. So as you're going to see in the guide that I'll link, the timings for each of the inputs is going to be different, which is freaking brutal. And you only have 2 frames, 2 freaking frames, to press the input correctly. Otherwise, it's going to be the slow attack animation. So after you press that first button, after 1.3 seconds, you're going to want to press it again. For me, what makes it a lot easier to do is looking at your character. As soon as their fists are spread out on both sides of the screen, as soon as that attack is done, that's where you're going to want to hit X, because you're going to be doing the roundhouse kick. So I just practice by staring at my arms. As soon as they're spread out, that's when I'm going to hit the X button. So just look at your character, and as soon as your character's arms drop, like a 0.1 second after your arms drop, that's when you're going to want to press the X input or your quick attack input for the follow-up. Just like that. Like a super little tiny delay right after your arms have spread out. That's when you're going to want to press it for the first input. That really helped me kind of nail down the start of the combo. And this move is the easiest one to do because Well, of course, the first attack string is going to be slow. Afterwards, they're going to be fast if you're hitting the inputs correct, and it becomes much harder to time it. So what really helped me get the timing down for the other ones is just doing the combo slow and seeing where your character is flashing. You're going to notice that at certain points, there's going to be that little blue flash on your character, and that is when you're going to want to press the input button. So if you kind of get a feel for each individual attack that's part of this combo, you're going to know at what points you actually have to press your inputs. And you're going to feel a lot more comfortable pressing them in the middle of a fight. Now, to actually do it in combat, there's going to usually be so much visual obstructions on screen that you just have to have that feeling down of when to press the buttons correctly. Because sometimes you can't even see your character. You know, I was able to do 3 there, but of course I missed the last one. There we go. Like, you really just have to get a feel for the timing by practicing it a lot. It's going to take, you know, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, an hour of practice of this a day, and you'll get the hang of it in no time. In like 2 or 3 days, I was able to get the timing down pretty consistently. But yeah, I did use this ability a lot to get used to it. So even if you don't feel comfortable with the timing, I would say practice with it for, you know, maybe 20-30 minutes, and then try to actually start using it in game. Even if you can't nail it perfect, if you can get that first move down, you can do a good burst of damage to your opponent when they're broken. And unlike the previous Nioh games, you're not going to get punished as badly for using Beyond Infinity. Again, because if you use it smart, you can do it without having it cost keys, so that even if you have to get out of the attack string, you're not going to be shit out of stamina and in a total pinch if the enemy hits you. So yeah, that's Beyond Infinity, kind of in a nutshell. I probably could talk about it a lot more, but I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, so that's about as much as I'm going to say for this ability. If you have any questions about it, again, watch the guide first, try to practice the timing, and maybe I can give you guys some more pointers in another video. Alright, so next up on our skills list is going to be Wolf Claw. This is another Crucible art. It is going to be, well, at least for using my controller scheme, it's going to be the guard button plus your heavy attack button, and you're basically going to stab your fist out. If it makes contact with an enemy, you're actually going to have a follow-up punch as well, and this is going to greatly increase your spirit force, which is the yellow bar at the bottom that lets you use your guardian spirit abilities. And again, this is a Crucible art, so you're going to have to go into the Crucible, find a Cestus with this art, and then you're going to have to max out your familiarity on it, and then you'll unlock the Crucible art to use for any of your weapons. So obviously, we're going with this skill, not just so that we can have some mix-ups in our abilities, but also because the Spirit Force generation is really good for spamming your Guardian Spirit abilities. These are going to be great if you're using the upgraded versions to apply elemental status debuffs, and if you're using the regular versions, they're just good damage or good ways to end your combos, to get hyper armor, to get that extra bit of stamina back after you finished attacking. So really good move, we're going to stick with that. So that was a lot of talking for high stance. Mid stance is going to be much more streamlined because all these abilities are just very simple and easily able to chain from one martial art to the next. So we're going to start off with Archer's Impact. You can get this from the Box's Guardian quest in the second world zone, the Icy World Zone. I'll probably put some footage up on screen. You're going to basically have to fight a Revenant Master whose name is the Demon Hunter, and he's also going to drop a really valuable armor set for us in addition to the Archer's Impact move. So this is pretty accessible, I would say, like early mid game. You can get this ability, and it is essential for your damage combo because it chains very nicely with every single type of attack, and because you jump back, it's also good as a defensive tool. The overall attack animation for it is very quick, so yeah, this chains a lot more nicely than Kick Cycle, in which you'll usually end up getting hit if you're hitting an enemy during your Kick Cycle that hasn't been staggered or doesn't have a long recovery window. So yeah, really great ability, does a lot of key damage, and it hits pretty damn hard, as you can see there. But yeah, this combos super nicely between all of our different abilities. So absolutely great move to have. And the next up we have is Fracture Foe Lightning. This is just going to be Fracture Foe if you haven't gotten the elemental variant of it, because the elemental variant of it is locked behind the 4th world zone. So you can't get this until late game, but it is really fucking sick once you get in late game. Basically the normal version of this, you're going to go ahead and follow up with a heavy attack after you do quick attacks, and you're going to stomp on the ground and elbow. And it's pretty cool. Does good bit of damage. It's very fast, so that can combo nicely between things. If you have the lightning version, it is going to stomp down with a burst of lightning and empower your fist with lightning damage for that one attack. And look at that. Look at the lightning damage. It's pretty significant. Like, it's no joke. So I really love this move. Fracture Full Lightning is one of my favorite attacks, like chaining from a combo string. Oops, and I did fail to do it there. Let's try that one more time. Look at that. It can very easily apply the lightning debuff if you're able to hit it multiple times on an enemy. Like, it basically got that Jailer Oni to about 60 or 70% of the way on a lightning debuff, so that was pretty good. And I will put up a little spoiler alert right now, but I'm going to show you guys where you can get this. It is also from a Chijiko, I believe. Next up we have is Battering Ram as our follow-up from Strong Attacks, Rising Gale and Sunrise. We've already talked about these in the Beginner's Guide. And then we have Reckless Charge, which we've also talked about. Looking at our alternatives, we have Reckless Charge, Stomp, Heavenly Strike. Heavenly Strike, we're going to use the low stance, so I'm going to talk about it there. But Stomp is a decent alternative. You're going to be able to stomp your fist on the ground, or your foot on the ground, and it is going to do a nice burst of damage, as well as empower your next martial arts ability. So it goes quite nicely if you're going to like Stomp, and then go for an Archer's Impact. That's going to get buffed up. Oh, he blocked me, of course he did. Boom. So that did maybe like 100, 200 extra damage. It's not anything too crazy, but it can be quite nice if you're going to chain it with something like the Kick Cycle, or if you're going to chain it with Beyond Infinity. But yeah, I'm just going to prefer Reckless Charge, because Reckless Charge you can use both an opener to cover distance, and then you can also use it while you're already in front of the enemy to hit them multiple times. And also, Reckless Charge, I forgot to mention this, but Reckless Charge has a follow-up skill. So you get Reckless Charge very early on, great skill, and then once you do the Way of the Warrior adept, you unlock Dreadslayer, which gives you the option to do the heavy attack button, and then you're going to actually have a different attack animation for the Reckless Charge. So that's the attack animation using heavy attack, that's light attack, heavy attack, light attack. So you have different options with your follow-up for the Reckless Charge, which makes it even more versatile as an attack. I use this constantly, frequently, very often. If you want to mix it up, like for your opener, you can go ahead and do a slide attack. Our slide attack is a great opener, and then you can follow it up with a Reckless Charge. Yeah, so that's what I mean. So just a great move to have. I really, really do recommend that you use Reckless Charge over anything else. At least have Reckless Charge on one of your stat sets. And the next up we have is Opportunist. This is going to be your kind of pseudo parry ability. It was really good in Nioh 2 when you didn't have deflect, but now that we do have deflect, it's not nearly as good. Deflect's timing is very strict, so if you're having trouble deflecting, Opportunist is a better alternative. But Opportunist can't be used against chain attacks. So if the enemy doesn't get staggered after you block them, this is a bad move to use. But yeah, still has its value here and there. A little bit more niche in Nioh 3 for sure. Personally, it kind of messes up my inputs when I have opportunities on, so I prefer it off, and I just use deflex or dodging. But yeah, up to you. I still do recommend it. Now, our last move in mid stance is going to be spinning kicks. This is a 1-2 kicking combo, and it's very nice to have. It flows very nicely from your Archer's Impact or from your Reckless Charge. And those moves also flow very nicely from your spinning kick. So I like it a lot. It does a lot of key damage, which is the main reason why I'll use it, so I can try to break the opponent. But it also flows very nicely as well. And you can pretty much chain this into whatever you want. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the combo section. But yeah, great move to have. Definitely make sure to take that at least one of your skill sets. And then let's cover low stance. Alright, so now let's talk about your low stance skills. We have the repeats of Kick Cycle Water and Fracture Foe Lightning. Of course, you can use Kick Cycle or Archer's Impact in the meanwhile and Fracture Foe as alternatives. Then we have a skill called Iron Grip, which is going to follow up our Strong Attack combo, and this is going to be a grab. So it's very simple. Whoops, failed to do it there. Accidentally just swept his legs. That's what it looks like. So you pull the enemy aside, and then they're displaced. You can follow up with some more of your combo. Fortunately, this guy just dies immediately. We'll see if the ninja fares better. Okay, nope. Ninja died faster. That makes sense. But yeah, very simple move. So you grab the enemy, you move them, displace them. Great against humanoids. It's whatever in most situations otherwise. For our next move, we have a motion input. So if you're moving forward and then you're using the dodge button after normal attack, you can do Flying Fist. We have Flying Fist Fire. We'll talk about it in a sec, but Flying Fist, you're going to kick off the opponent. You're going to jump up into the air and you're going to slam down on them. And then if you press the quick attack button afterwards, you can also kick and propel yourself backwards away from them. So this is a great move to have. Not just because it looks super freaking cool. I mean, look at that. Boom. But also because it's good disengage. So if the enemy is going to be attacking you, you can use this to get some distance. Like that. And then, of course, you can follow it up if the enemy isn't going to attack you with any of your gap closers. In that case, I'm going to do a dash attack like this. We could also follow it up with other things. For example, the heavy attack kick. A lot of the times they have to be a little bit closer to hit them there, but you can still trigger your follow-up. Very cool move. And then if we get the variant, we have Flying Fist Fire. We're going to have a fire explosion at the end of the slam into the ground. So that is super lit. Boom. Absolutely love that. Does a decent bit of fire damage. Yeah, you can see 3 ticks of fire damage there. Wasn't crazy high, but it was still a pretty decent amount of extra damage that we have. We can also follow it up with a sliding attack. That's a pretty good one, especially if we've backed off. We can cover some ground and then come back in with a sliding attack. Love the sliding attack. Good follow-up for that. But yeah, super, super useful move to have. It does a good bit of damage, and it also just looks really freaking cool. I mean, that's the main reason why I would ever recommend using it. But yeah, Flying Fist Fire. You don't have any other options for this, so you may as well use it. But yeah, Flying Fist will do just fine until you get the upgraded version, which you only get in the 4th World Zone. I will show a video for that. Basically, it's from Chijinko in the 4th World Zone. but only accessible in late game. And then next up we have the Ocean Zephyr, which is our dodge move. If you hold the guard button and then you also hold the dodge button, you are going to start doing some backflips and some cartwheels. This is great if you want to maintain your stacks from broken, because you are using a skill. And the iframes on it are pretty decent too. It's also kind of funny to just dance around our opponent. He's not doing anything. He's just so confused. But yeah, nothing too crazy to talk about for that move. It is nice as a mobility option. And the next up we are going to have is Rising Gale and Sunrise, same as usual. Sunrise, however, we can use with defensive drop. But first, let's talk about Heavenly Strike. So this is our guard input with quick attack. Heavenly Strike is going to send us into the air with a fist. And there's also the Heavenly Strike combo. We'll talk about it in a sec. But the Heavenly Strike by itself, it's just boom, you go into the air, and then if you want, you can press X again, or you can press your light attack button again, and you'll follow it up with the dive kick if you have learned that skill as well. That skill is called Dancing Kick, so make sure to learn that. Super good, that dive kick. I love this attack. It's freaking awesome. Exactly like, you know, Jury's dive kick in Street Fighter, or Dante's dive kick in Devil May Cry. Great entry attack. Super good at sniping heads. Whoops. And as I say that, I miss. Let's see if we can snipe head with this. Yep. It gets us in the air. This is a good alternative, and it's much faster than doing the double jump if you do this attack. Right? This is the double jump. We got to do the second jump, so it's a little bit faster than that if we do this attack. Quite nice to have, especially if you're someone that likes to do aerial attacks or just hates aerial enemies. Very nice to have. And then the upgraded version, which unfortunately you can only get in the 4th World Zone. Like literally all of these abilities here, Kick Cycle Water, Fractureful Lightning, Flying Fist Fire, and Heavenly Strike combo, you cannot get until you get to the 4th World Zone, which is pretty late game. But anyways, once you get to the 4th World Zone, you have to defeat a certain enemy, and you can get Heavenly Strike combo. This is going to allow us to follow up with multiple hits before we want to drop in. We can actually do other types of things, like the finisher, the heavy attack here, or if we want, we could do just a bunch of light attacks and then our dive kick. But yeah, this just gives us more options, which is always nice. And look at that, we're already able to kill him. Just off the rip, jumping up to his face. Boom, boom, boom. It does quite a bit of hits when you go for the Heavenly Strike combos. So, honestly, a really good burst of damage, this attack. Whoops, I'm not showing it well. Yeah, like that's a good burst of damage, and it gets you off the ground, so you can actually avoid certain types of enemy attacks as well. Very nice to have. And then last but not least, we have our defensive drop. So alternatively, you could have spinning kicks or wolf claw, but defensive drop is unique to low stance. Actually, is it unique to low stance? It is not unique to low stance. Never mind. Defensive drop is just an option to have. If you already have spinning kicks on another one of your stances, then I do recommend having defensive drop if you do like this ability, because it can be a great defensive tool as well as a good gap closer. So defensive drop, it puts us prone after we do a swipe attack, and then our options to follow up are going to be, well actually, hold on, let me just show it to you normally. So that's our normal follow-up, and if we get attacked during this animation... Oh, how did I not time it there? Hey, don't grab me. Son of a bitch. Alright, let's restart this. All right, and so our last move is going to be defensive drop, which is going to be the guard button with heavy attack input. This basically puts you prone onto the ground, and then if you press the quick attack button, you can parry enemy attacks. Let's see if we can show it here. Whoops. It is a little bit finicky to use. Come on. Come on. Get closer. What are you scared of, bro? Wait, I actually haven't seen that. Boom! That's what it looks like. Really, really cool parry animation, or counter animation, if you manage to hit it. Alternatively, you can upgrade this skill to have some additional effects. So alternatively, you can upgrade defensive drop to have additional effects. So if you get defensive drop 2, then you can basically follow this up. Now, our last move is going to be the defensive drop, which you can do by guarding and then the heavy attack or strong attack button. It is going to put us prone onto the ground, and then we can press the quick attack and we'll do a counter if an enemy tries to attack us. Whoops. Oh, tried it there. Let's see if we can get it. Come on. Boom! Really cool animation. Super freaking sick move. And yeah, you can actually dodge some moves by dropping prone, which is really, really niche, but also super cool if you manage to pull it off. If you get the upgraded version, you can chain it from strong attack. Whoops. Yeah, you can basically chain it in your strong attack combo. And that's pretty nice to allow you to evade enemy attacks. And then if you get the final upgrade, let me actually show you guys what I'm talking about here. This is defensive drop 2 that lets us drop prone mid combo. And then if we get the final upgrade, Sunrise, then we are able to press the strong attack button. And if we do it while we're in neutral, we're going to do a spinning kick to get back up. If we do it with a forward input, we are going to dive forward. So let me show you what that looks like. Boom, that's the kick. Oh, he dodged us. There you go. That's the kick. That was using the strong attack button with moving forward. And then this is just using the strong attack button in neutral. So we do a bunch of spinning kicks getting up, which hits quite a lot. So really good options, both of those. Definitely worth the investment of points if you can afford it. Early on, I wouldn't say to get Sunrise because it's just so costly in terms of skill point investment. But definitely later on, once you're like just swimming in samurai points, like make sure to get this. And yeah, that is going to be all of our skills. I don't know how much of the video this is going to take. It took me unironically like 2.5 hours to record this because I had to reiterate it so many times. But yeah, that's our skills breakdown. Hopefully you have a pretty good understanding of what our toolkit we're rocking with is going to be and what to look forward to. And then now we're going to get into the gear. All right, so let's talk about gear. It is very, very simple. Our equipment is going to be all 7 pieces of the Demon Hunter set, the Brave Demon Hunter set. This is accessible pretty much once you get to the second world zone where it's the Icy Frost area. If you do the Box Guardians questline and you acquire Archer's Impact by killing the Demon Hunter, you're also going to get the crafting recipes for the armor set and the 2 main weapons, the Demon Arm Cestus and the Demon Cutter. And the reason why we want the full set of this is for the set bonus of first of the 4 Guardians. This is going to make it so that at 2 pieces, we gain a bunch of health. 3 pieces, we get increased martial arts damage. 4 pieces, enhanced attack and defense for Cestus weapons. 5 pieces, increased key recovery speed. 6 pieces, martial arts key consumption reduced. And then 7 pieces, an attack bonus based upon our strength. So this is just a literally perfect set for the Cestuses that in Nioh 2 also was a perfect set for the Cestuses. So really good fist sets. Once you get to New Game Plus, there is the potential that we could get new armors with new set bonuses, and that might unlock a lot of options. But as far as like your first playthrough goes, just get the Brave Demon Hunter set. You're good to go with that, and you will be able to craft it after you've killed the Demon Slayer. So very, very accessible. Let me just show you guys what my pieces have. I'm definitely prioritizing martial arts key consumption, or anything that's going to reduce your key costs or give you key regen is really good. You'll see here I have gain Amrita on strong attack. That is going to be really nice. That'll tie into later on to our sustain that I'll mention when we cover the magic. But yeah, we're working on our key recovery. For our weapon, we have the Demon Arm Cestuses. You're going to want to craft this so that it's at the highest level that you could possibly get, or at least upgrade it, soul match it, soul forge it, whatever you want to do, because you want this to be your main weapon. And it is a really cool looking weapon just by default, but I do have mine reskinned. Demon Cutter is a katana. It is our secondary weapon. We're doing this just for the set bonus. If you do have an alternate, samurai weapon that you want to use and you're actually going to put it to good use, you can swap it out. Losing out on the attack bonus strength rank A isn't the end of the world, because we're not going to super prioritize strength anyways. But yeah, it is nice to have. And because I'm not using anything else, we're going to use Demon Cutter. For our accessory slots, we have Japanese Scissors to gain Amrita on strong attack, as well as Spirit Force. And then we have 2 leaves to have melee attack key consumption reduced. For our equipment items, well, actually, we'll cover this when we cover the magic. And then for our Guardian Spirit, we have Guhin, who gives by far the best special effects out of all of the Guardian Spirits. For our martial arts build, martial arts key consumption reduced, damage taken reduced, strong attack break increase. And break, by the way, is a really important stat that increases the key damage that we deal. Fast winded recovery, and then we also get melee damage versus winded enemy increased. So if you are able to inflict the wind condition onto enemies, that's going to give you another boost to damage, which is very nice. Alright, so for our Onmyo box, our 2 main soul cores in the Yang position are going to be the Thorned Gaki soul core, which gives us break and strong attack key damage, both of which are going to be great for popping our enemy's key bar so that then we can unload on them and they're going to be stagger locked. And then, of course, it's going to be the Nupepel soul core for our lifesteal and sustain in the build. Now, this gives you 100 extra life, but more importantly, it also gives life recovery, Amrita absorption. So whenever you gain Amrita, which is, basically your souls, from killing enemies or from the means that I'm going to show you in a second, you get back 12 HP, which doesn't sound like a lot because, currently our HP bar is like 2,500 health. But because we attack so much and we have so many instances of damage, this actually does give us quite a bit of health regen over the course of a fight. And makes a very big difference in terms of our overall sustain and quality of life on the build. So make sure to get the Nupepel soul core and have that in your slot if you only have 1 Yang. But if you have 2, then definitely fit in the Thorned Gaki for that extra bit of damage, because it's quite nice. Now for our Yin position magics, we have the Galestorm Oni B. Any Oni B soul core is going to do. Depends on the situation. If an enemy is immune to wind or seems to have a high resistance to the wind status effect, then switch it to fire, switch it to water, switch it to lightning. All of those are going to be fantastic. We have the Raiju soul core, which gives us lightning familiar. Again, doesn't really matter what type of soul core it is, as long as it's giving a familiar talisman to just have that constant output of elemental damage. I like to have one element of Oni-B and a different element of a familiar talisman, so that you can inflict 2 different status conditions, and that is going to allow us to inflict the confused condition, which basically makes enemies take massively increased damage and have reduced ki regeneration, making them way easier to kill. So having at least 2 status effects that we can apply from our Oni-B and our familiar talisman is incredibly helpful. And then we have the Mermaid Soul Core, which is going to give us the Life Leech talisman. So life leeching is literal lifesteal on hit. It is very freaking powerful, super good to have, and it's gonna be partly what makes us immortal in fights. And then we have the Otoroshi Soul Core, which gives us the Barrier Talisman. Barrier Talisman is going to increase our ki recovery, so it's super nice to have, especially for the fish. You're going to need all the ki recovery you can get. Last but not least, we have the Gaki Chief Soul Core, and as I said with the new Pepple Soul Core, we are able to recover life based upon the Amrita that we're getting. With the Extraction Talisman you get from the Soul Core, then you're able to steal Amrita from enemies on hit. So basically, this gives us that on-hit lifesteal. Every single time we attack, we are recovering HP. That's very powerful together. Alright, so here's our stat spread for the Immortal Fist build. You're going to notice it's pretty even spread. We got 30 con, 30 heart, 15 stamina, 13 strength, 11 skill, 30 intellect, and 25 magic. We are level 119 as of this recording. If this build was just at level 100, I would definitely be sacrificing some points in Constitution and some points in Intellect. But the reason why we have such an even stat distribution is because this build is very much focused on good quality of life. So I want you to have pretty high health HP. I want you to have a good pull for your ki as well as ki recovery. And the main way we're going to do that is through Constitution, Heart, and Intellect. Now, you can remodel your weapon so that it scales off of all 3 of those. Otherwise, the fists are going to just mostly scale off of heart and stamina. But yeah, I highly recommend having at least 30, well, you could have at least 20 Constitution and at least 20 heart. That's going to be a good base for your life and ki. The minimum stamina, whatever you need to make sure that your encumbrance rate is below 70%. If I reset here, you're going to see that my encumbrance rate is 82% and it's yellow. That is really bad. It means that everything you do is going to cost more ki and you're going to be more slow, and it's terrible. So make sure it's below 70%, however much stamina it takes to get below 70% for your Brave Hunter armor. Just make sure to get there. And then for our strength, we're going to have the minimum requirements needed to use our gear. If you actually look at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see that special effect requirement is going to be stating how much you need for the current gear that you have equipped. So always make sure that it's above whatever the minimum is there. So like here for skill, we want to have at least 7 or 8 skill. For intellect, we want to have at least 7 to 10 intellect, etc., etc. Want to make sure to meet those minimum requirements. But again, I recommend prioritizing heart and Constitution first, and then getting the minimum requirements for stamina, strength, skill, and intellect, and then putting tons of points into magic so you can have access to more Onmyo's magic spells in your inventory. Getting that up to 25 is going to give you a total of 5 different Onmyo magics that you can have access to, the like talismans and magical effects from. So that's really important. And then intellect, if you'll notice here, as we're leveling this up, it is actually increasing our ki recovery speed quite substantially per level. If we level up our, let me go back to base. If we level up our heart here, it only goes up by about 0.2 per level, which is awful. Whereas if we level up our intellect, our ki recovery speed goes up by about 0.4, 0.5 per level, and that's after level 40. It actually increases way more early on. So I highly recommend having intellect just for that ki recovery speed. It is quite substantial, and then of course everything else, minimum requirements needed. For our skill management, we have a hell of a lot of options, but these are going to be what I recommend. Supreme Parry is going to give us 150 life after a burst break. That ties into our immortality. We have Enduring Vigor to restore ki after a burst break. So again, giving us ki sustain. We got ki sapping follow-up, increases damage dealt to enemies that are out of ki or winded, which is our ki focus, to obliterate the enemy's ki bar so that we can deal a ton of damage with Beyond Infinity. We have Repel Expert, where we can extend the window of opportunity for successful shift style. Burst Break, making it easier to do our burst breaks, which are in turn going to give us health and ki. And then we have Awakening, which allows us to cast Onmyo Magic faster. Specifically for this build, actually, honestly, for a lot of builds, Awakening is really, really good. I think versatility with the Fist is also extremely high value because it makes you do a ton of damage. But admittedly, Awakening is more useful if you will end up finding yourself having to cast magic in battle, which, especially if you have to reapply spells or you have to cast spells onto enemies, this is just way too useful. It is really good utility. So that's going to be what you want to take for your common skills. For Samurai, we have Ki Pulse Heaven. We have, for Samurai, we have Ki Pulse Heaven, giving us additional damage if we're in high stance and we perfectly Ki Pulse. Running Water is going to allow us to Ki Pulse by dodging. Polished Form reduces our ki consumption. Arts Proficiency Life Siphon is going to give us additional life when our Arts Proficiency is activated, which is absolutely huge. We have Double Edge Arts for additional damage when our Arts Proficiency is active. Resilient Arts, again, additional damage. And then Favorable Wind for increased melee damage dealt to enemies afflicted with status ailments, which we're going to do because of our magic. For the Ninja Tree, this doesn't really matter as much because this build focus is going to be on Samurai style, not Ninja style. But I recommend taking Perseverance because that will help you with guarding in case you don't deflect. Dodging to reduce the ki cost of dodging. Shared Blessing is going to allow it so that when you use your Guardian Spirit, you can have the status enchantment applied to your weapon. Yokai Banisher, allowing you to remove Yokai Realm by performing a Mist. And then Wrathful Dragon to inflict increased damage on an enemy after you land them with ninjutsu. So all of these super helpful into the build, and you can kind of see that with Supreme Parry as well as, where's the other one? Was it Samurai? As well as our Arts Proficiency Life Siphon, we have two skills that are going to give us even more healing on top of our spells. So we have quite a bit of synergies going around here. Let me actually show you how the build works in practice. Alright, so I did want to go back and just correct something really quick, or at least make a note that if you run Double Edge Arch, you're going to be taking 30% increased damage. That is quite a lot of damage to take, but you are dealing quite a lot of damage back. So if you ever feel like, hey, I'm a little bit too squishy running the skill management build, then you can swap it for Resolute Arts, which is actually going to make us have 15% damage resistance while our Arts Proficiency is active. So do keep that in mind. I run Double Edge Arts because I just like dealing damage. But of course, if you want to be more tanky, you can disable this and take Resolute Arts instead. Alright, so we're going to fight one of the Masters. These guys deal like notoriously high amounts of damage compared to most of the other enemies in the game. So you can't just tank hits forever against them. But I am going to show you that you can tank quite a few hits and you're going to be able to sustain without having to pop your elixirs. So as you probably saw at the start of this fight, all we have to do to execute the Immortal Fist build is use our Attraction Talisman on ourselves so that we get Amrita on hit when we're hitting our enemies, and then also use our Life Leeching Talisman on an enemy so that we are going to have substantial lifesteal from them. And at this point, I am basically whooping this Master's ass by using regular combos for the Fist. If you guys want to know some of the basic combos, I did detail them in the beginner's guide, and I'll talk a little bit more about the combos that you should use on this build afterwards. But you can see that we're very easily able to heal all the way back to full health from half with just a few attacks, because of how much lifesteal we're getting off of the Amrita Absorption as well as the Life Leeching. Again, we got dropped to half health, and then we pretty much are able to heal all the way back to full. We really don't have to worry about this dude hitting us as long as he's not able to just kind of relentlessly pummel our face in. any amount of healing or any amount of damage that we take, we can just heal right off. So very, very easy fight. I was doing that super casually without all that much effort, so it's very foolproof. So the combo starts with Reckless Charge, which allows us to go right into the enemy even if they're attacking. And then we can follow it up with a spinning kick, allowing us to then follow up with a Rising Gale. Then we're going to do an Archer's Impact, followed by a stance change into high stance from mid, and then the kick cycle. This is usually enough to break the enemy's key bar. If it doesn't manage to do that, you can try to do a Guardian Spirit move, you can back off, you can reset, or you can try to switch to another stance and follow up with a quick attack into a heavy attack chain, or a heavy attack into a quick attack chain. So you have a lot of options as far as what type of combo that you want to do. You can always go back to doing another Archer Impact or another spinning kicks if that didn't seem effective enough. And these attacks are going to be able to loop with each other. This combo loops by itself, so you can just keep doing it onto the enemy. Just practice and practice and practice it until it becomes second nature, and I promise you guys, you're going to be able to absolutely obliterate on the battlefield. So in this fight, we're going to be using that same combo, but after the enemy's key bar is broken, we're going to follow it up with Beyond Infinity. We have enough time during this stagger to actually execute a full Beyond Infinity if you get all the inputs right. If you don't get all the inputs right, it's still going to be a lot of damage, and chances are you're just going to have to cancel out using Guardian Spirit skill, or you're just going to have to leave one of the inputs open so that the combo doesn't go all the way through for Beyond Infinity, so that you can get out of dodge when the enemy gets their breath back and starts attacking. But yeah, this is the basics to how you can use the Immortal Fist. As you can see, it's quite effective. And I do have some more advanced combos, but I'm going to save that for a future video because a lot of the skills, at least the elemental variants of the Cestus moves, you don't get into late game. So I kind of want to wait until people get to late game, people get to New Game Plus before I start talking about the advanced combos. Who knows, maybe I'll just wait like a couple days and release a video when I have the chance to. But I think this should be enough for you guys to get started in your journey using the Immortal Fist. It is a ton of fun, and I really can't recommend the Cestus enough. It's my favorite weapon. The spear probably is going to be a close second, but I definitely love the Fist a lot. And also, I think I might make a Talon video pretty soon if I can get all the skills unlocked for that. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for the video. I don't think I have anything else to share with you guys. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. It always helps out the channel, motivates me to make more content. And of course, hit that notification button if you want to know when more Nioh 3 guides or builds are going to be coming out, because I'm definitely going to pump out more content for this game. I absolutely adore it and can't wait to get to New Game Plus. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. See you guys in the next one. Peace.
騒乱あれ。風林火山が不滅の運気再び翻さん。であれば旧国の志必